What if Earth is a zoo? Not just metaphorically, but literally. What if advanced alien civilizations are watching us, studying us, and deliberately staying silent? No contact, no signals, just observation. Like animals behind glass, we live our lives unaware of the watchers beyond the stars. It's not science fiction, it's a real theory. And if it's true, it changes everything. This is the zoo hypothesis. The zoo hypothesis. Are aliens avoiding Earth? It's a question that has captivated minds for generations. Are we alone in the universe? With billions of stars in the galaxy and even more planets orbiting them, it's statistically improbable that Earth is the only place where intelligent life has developed. And yet, despite decades of searching, we haven't heard a single definitive whisper from beyond the stars. This silence is what's known as the Fermi Paradox, named after the physicist Enrico Fermi, who famously asked, "Where is everybody?" In a cosmos teeming with potential, the lack of contact from extraterrestrial civilizations is not just puzzling, it's downright eerie. One of the more fascinating and provocative ideas proposed to resolve this paradox is known as the zoo hypothesis. Think of it like this: Earth is a cosmic wildlife preserve, and we humans are the curious, intelligent, but still developing species, being observed from a safe distance. In this view, advanced alien civilizations are deliberately avoiding contact with us, much like how wildlife biologists might observe a troop of gorillas without disturbing their natural behavior. The aliens may be waiting for us to reach a certain level of technological or ethical maturity before they initiate contact. Or maybe they've agreed to leave Earth alone altogether, abiding by some kind of cosmic prime directive. But why would they do that? Why would beings capable of traveling between stars choose to stay hidden, to silently watch us instead of communicating? The zoo hypothesis isn't just a cool science fiction plot. It raises deep philosophical, ethical, and scientific questions about our place in the universe, our development as a civilization, and the nature of intelligence itself. And maybe, just maybe, it gives us a clue about what's really going on out there in the great expanse of space. Let's explore this idea from multiple angles. We'll look at the origins of the hypothesis, the logic and science behind it, alternative theories, and what it would mean for humanity if it were true. We'll consider the possibility that Earth really is being watched, that our civilization is under cosmic quarantine, and that our isolation is by design, not by accident. So, buckle up. Whether you're a skeptic, a believer, or just a curious mind looking to peer a little deeper into the cosmic mystery, this journey through the zoo hypothesis will stretch your imagination and maybe even change the way you see the stars. The origins of the zoo hypothesis. To understand the zoo hypothesis fully, we have to go back to one of the biggest questions in modern science. Why haven't we heard from aliens yet? The universe is ancient, over 13 billion years old, and our galaxy, the Milky Way, has existed for much of that time. If even a small fraction of stars have planets with intelligent life, and if just a fraction of those civilizations developed spacefaring technology, we should have encountered some evidence of them by now. Radio signals, megastructures, or even probes. This puzzle is what became known as the Fermi Paradox, and it serves as the foundation for many theories about extraterrestrial life. The paradox is simple yet powerful. Based on probability, alien civilizations should be everywhere, but in reality, we see no sign of them. Enrico Fermi's original question was posed informally during a lunch conversation in 1950, but it launched a deep and ongoing investigation into humanity's loneliness in the cosmos. In the decades that followed, thinkers and scientists began to propose possible explanations. Some said that intelligent life is exceedingly rare or tends to destroy itself. Others suggested we're just not looking in the right way or at the right time. But in 1973, a man named John A. Ball, an MIT radio astronomer, introduced a bold new possibility that aliens are deliberately avoiding us. Ball called this idea the zoo hypothesis, and it was as radical as it was elegant. He argued that if alien civilizations are widespread and significantly more advanced than we are, it's not that they can't communicate, it's that they choose not to. Earth might be under observation, much like animals in a zoo are observed by humans. These extraterrestrials might be watching our behaviors, our development, our wars, and our art, all without ever interfering. Why wouldn't they reach out? According to Ball, it's about preservation. Imagine a wildlife documentary. The filmmakers don't go charging into the jungle with loudspeakers to announce their presence. They set up cameras from a distance, trying not to alter the behavior of the animals they're studying. If intelligent aliens were doing the same thing with us, they'd avoid contact until they deemed us ready, or possibly forever. This idea turns the Fermi Paradox on its head. Instead of wondering where the aliens are, it asks why they're hiding. And the answer might be that they're not hiding at all. They're just choosing not to show themselves, not because they fear us, but because they're observing a code of conduct, an ethical guideline not to interfere with developing civilizations. Ball's hypothesis didn't gain immediate mainstream popularity, but it sparked interest among those willing to entertain the possibility that our planet isn't as isolated as it seems. And the more you think about it, the more it starts to make a strange kind of sense. What would motivate aliens to avoid us? Let's suppose for a moment that the zoo hypothesis is true, that an advanced alien civilization, or even a whole network of them, knows we exist, but has chosen not to make contact. Why would they do this? What would be their motivation? There are a few compelling possibilities. First, there's the concept of non-interference ethics. If alien civilizations have evolved far beyond our own, they might see themselves as stewards or protectors of younger civilizations. They could believe that direct contact with us would be harmful, culturally, psychologically, or even biologically. This idea isn't foreign to us. We have similar ethical standards when dealing with uncontacted tribes on Earth. Governments and anthropologists often choose not to interfere with these tribes, believing that exposure to modern society could destroy their way of life. Why wouldn't aliens, especially benevolent or cautious ones, think the same about us? Second, there's the idea of cosmic quarantine. Maybe we're not just under observation, we're being kept isolated for a reason. Perhaps we're considered too primitive, too violent, or too unpredictable to be part of some larger galactic community. In this version of the zoo hypothesis, aliens aren't just ignoring us, they're actively enforcing our isolation, watching to see whether we can evolve past our current limitations. It's a bit unsettling to think about. Could our wars, our environmental destruction, and our tribalism be sending the message that we're not ready for cosmic membership? Could our own behavior be the very reason we remain alone? A third possibility is that contact might be dangerous, for them or for us. Consider the technological gap that might exist between us and them. If aliens are thousands or even millions of years more advanced, their understanding of reality, of consciousness, of time itself might be so foreign to us that even minimal contact could have unpredictable consequences. The cultural shock could destabilize our societies, or worse, be misinterpreted as a threat, leading to conflict. And finally, perhaps it's not about ethics or danger at all. Maybe contact just isn't interesting to them. Think about how we treat ants. We know they exist, we might study them occasionally, but we don't spend a lot of time trying to communicate with them. Maybe, in the grand scheme of things, humans simply aren't that interesting to aliens, at least not yet. Technosignatures and the silent sky. To dig deeper into the zoo hypothesis, we need to consider the search for technosignatures, signals or traces of advanced technology that an alien civilization might produce. These could include things like radio signals, laser pulses, or enormous space structures like Dyson spheres. For decades, scientists have used radio telescopes to listen to the cosmos. The most famous effort was the search for extraterrestrial intelligence, or SETI, which began in earnest in the 1960s. Despite scanning billions of frequencies, SETI has yet to detect a confirmed signal from an alien civilization. And that silence only deepens the mystery. If advanced civilizations exist, why aren't they broadcasting their presence? The zoo hypothesis offers one possible answer. they're deliberately staying quiet. In fact, some researchers have proposed that advanced civilizations might use encrypted communications or narrowband transmissions that would be indistinguishable from natural signals to anyone not already part of their network. Others might use communication methods we haven't even discovered yet, quantum entanglement, neutrinos, or something even stranger. The key idea is this: just because we haven't seen anything doesn't mean nothing's out there. If aliens are trying to avoid detection, they'd be good at it. They'd be beyond our current understanding of technology. After all, a civilization that has survived for tens of thousands of years, maybe even longer, would almost certainly be capable of remaining invisible to a species like ours. And that raises another question: have we already been contacted but missed the message? Could ancient myths, sudden technological leaps, or unexplainable historical anomalies be subtle signs of a hidden alien presence? Or are we simply projecting our hopes and fears onto the void? Cultural and philosophical implications. What if we're being watched? Imagine, just for a moment, that the zoo hypothesis is correct. That at this very second, an advanced alien civilization is watching us, monitoring our behavior, listening to our conversations, maybe even reading this very sentence. What does that mean for us as a species? How would such knowledge change the way we see ourselves? First, there's the matter of identity. Much of human culture, religion, and philosophy has been built on the idea that we are unique. The belief that Earth holds a special place in the cosmos has persisted for thousands of years, even as science has chipped away at that idea. We used to think our planet was the center of the universe. Then we learned that our sun is just one of hundreds of billions in our galaxy. Then came the discovery of exoplanets, and with them the realization that habitable worlds might be common. Still, many people hold on to the idea that humanity is somehow exceptional, perhaps even the pinnacle of evolution. The zoo hypothesis forces us to confront the possibility that we're not exceptional at all. In fact, we might be considered so primitive by alien standards that they don't even think we're ready for a proper introduction. That's a tough pill to swallow, but it's also deeply humbling, and maybe even necessary. If we truly are part of a larger community of intelligent life, then our behavior matters on a cosmic scale. We're not just actors on the human stage, we're part of something bigger, and we're being watched. This has profound implications for our ethical development. Would we still allow war, poverty, and environmental destruction to go unchecked if we knew advanced civilizations were silently observing us? Could the realization that we're under watch inspire a kind of global awakening, a shift toward cooperation, sustainability, and peace? Philosopher Nick Bostrom has argued that knowing we are being observed, or even suspected of being observed, could dramatically alter human civilization's trajectory. The fear of judgment from a higher intelligence might act as a moral motivator. The same way ancient cultures used gods to enforce moral behavior, but instead of an omnipotent deity, it would be a highly evolved alien species playing the role of cosmic overseer. At the same time, there's a darker side to this revelation. If we are indeed the subjects of a cosmic experiment, does that mean we lack agency? Are we merely puppets on a galactic stage, manipulated and studied by beings we can't even perceive? Could our entire history be shaped not by random chance, but by the subtle influence of those watching from the stars? These are questions with no easy answers, but the very act of asking them, of imagining a universe where we are not alone, pushes the boundaries of human thought. The zoo hypothesis isn't just a theory about aliens, it's a mirror reflecting our deepest fears and highest aspirations. How does the zoo hypothesis stack up against other theories? The zoo hypothesis is compelling, but it's far from the only idea out there trying to solve the mystery of the Fermi Paradox. Over the years, scientists and thinkers have proposed dozens of explanations, ranging from the logical to the bizarre. So how does the zoo hypothesis compare? Let's look at a few of the major contenders. 1. The rare Earth hypothesis. One of the most grounded and sobering ideas is that we might be alone, or nearly alone, because Earth-like planets that support complex life are extremely rare. While simple microbial life might be common, the leap to intelligent technological civilizations could be astronomically unlikely. Proponents of this view point to the incredibly specific conditions that make life on Earth possible: a stable star, a large moon to stabilize our tilt, a protective magnetic field, plate tectonics, a rich atmosphere, and the right chemical ingredients. If even one of these factors were missing, intelligent life might never have arisen. In contrast to the zoo hypothesis, the rare Earth hypothesis suggests there's no one watching us because there's no one else out there to watch. It's a lonely conclusion, but one supported by the lack of observable alien activity. 2. The Great Filter. Another grim possibility is the Great Filter theory. This idea proposes that there is a step in the evolution of intelligent life that is extremely difficult to pass, so difficult in fact that almost no civilizations make it through. The filter could be behind us. Perhaps life itself is incredibly rare, or the jump from simple to complex organisms is nearly impossible. But the scarier version is that the Great Filter lies ahead, that once civilizations develop powerful technology, like nuclear weapons, AI, or planet-altering capabilities, they tend to destroy themselves. If that's the case, then we're not being watched, we're being warned. The silence in the cosmos might be the result of countless civilizations that burned brightly for a brief moment, only to snuff themselves out before they could reach the stars. The zoo hypothesis, in contrast, offers a more hopeful view. It suggests that others have survived, and that they're still out there, silently waiting for us to join them. 3. The simulation hypothesis. This theory overlaps with the zoo hypothesis in some fascinating ways. It posits that we're not living in a real universe at all, but in a highly advanced simulation created by an intelligent entity, perhaps even an alien species. In this scenario, the reason we don't detect aliens is because they're not programmed into our simulation, or maybe we're being deliberately isolated in a sandbox version of reality, much like a test environment in software development. The simulation hypothesis raises many of the same questions as the zoo hypothesis. Are we being watched? Are our actions being recorded? Are there rules we don't understand? And if so, who set them and why? 4. They're already here. Some believe that aliens have already arrived, but they're either hiding in plain sight or are indistinguishable from us. This includes everything from ancient astronaut theories to modern UFO sightings. Proponents argue that governments or secret organizations may be aware of alien presence and are deliberately keeping it under wraps. While this theory veers into more conspiratorial territory, it shares key assumptions with the zoo hypothesis, particularly the idea that extraterrestrials are capable of stealth and non-interference. But unlike the zoo hypothesis, which suggests a hands-off observational approach, this theory implies that aliens might already be subtly influencing our world. 5. We're early. Another possibility is that intelligent life is still emerging throughout the galaxy, and we just happen to be among the first. Civilizations may be so rare or so widely spread out that the galaxy hasn't had time to light up with communication yet. This early bird theory suggests the cosmic silence is temporary, and that contact, or at least evidence of alien life, will eventually emerge as more civilizations come online. Unlike the zoo hypothesis, which places us in a galactic preserve, the early bird theory puts us on the frontier of evolution. Instead of being behind the curve, we're ahead of it. Speculative scenarios: what would contact actually look like? So let's imagine, just for a moment, that the zoo hypothesis is correct. And one day, the zookeepers decide to say hello. What would that moment look like? Would it be a slow process, or would it unfold in a blinding instant, like a cosmic curtain being lifted? There are many possible contact scenarios. Some are optimistic, others more sobering. Let's explore a few. 1. The gradual reveal. In this version of contact, the aliens don't just show up one day in glowing spaceships over our cities. Instead, they begin to ease us into the idea. Perhaps it starts with small anomalies, unexplainable but clearly artificial signals or patterns. Maybe humanity detects an unmistakable transmission that couldn't have come from Earth. Perhaps it includes mathematical constants, universal languages like prime numbers or the hydrogen line, or even encoded visual data. The message would be unmistakable: you are not alone. From there, the alien civilization might begin sending increasingly clear messages, giving us time to absorb the truth without panic. They might never physically arrive, but could communicate via probes, advanced technology, or even holographic transmissions. In this scenario, the process would be guided by empathy. The aliens would understand our psychology and approach us cautiously, like a parent approaching a scared child, respecting our emotional and cultural limitations. 2. The sudden arrival. Of course, not all civilizations might be so gentle. In a more abrupt scenario, alien ships simply appear one day, hovering silently in our skies. No warning, no prelude, just arrival. And not just over New York or Beijing, but simultaneously over every major city, every ocean, and every continent. The message would be undeniable. The psychological impact, enormous. While this might seem like science fiction, it's a plausible possibility. If aliens have been watching us for centuries or longer, they would know how to coordinate such an event. The goal might not be conquest, but confirmation, a kind of galactic graduation ceremony. Still, even without hostile intent, such an event would shake the very foundations of our civilization. Governments would scramble, religions might fracture, economies could collapse. And yet, in the chaos, there could also be a moment of global unity, an awakening to our place in the cosmos. 3. The silent influence. Another possibility is that we have already made contact, just not in the way we expected. What if alien influence has been with us for millennia, subtly guiding our development without revealing itself? Perhaps certain technological leaps, like agriculture, mathematics, or metallurgy, were inspired or nudged forward by outside forces. Maybe some of our myths and ancient gods were distorted memories of real encounters. Or perhaps certain individuals throughout history received information or visions that weren't entirely human in origin. In this version of the zoo hypothesis, contact has always been happening. We just haven't recognized it for what it truly is. 4. The simulation disclosure. And then there's the truly wild card. What if the zookeepers reveal that we're not even living in a real universe at all? What if we're inside a simulation, a complex experiment or cultural observation chamber built by alien intelligences? Such a revelation would blur the lines between science, religion, and philosophy. It would challenge the nature of reality itself. But from the perspective of the zoo hypothesis, this scenario isn't far-fetched. If we are being observed, why not in a controlled environment? Suddenly, the quietness of the cosmos would make perfect sense. We're not hearing from aliens because they're not out there. They're above us, running the simulation we call life. Psychological and societal effects of disclosure. If humanity were to learn tomorrow that the zoo hypothesis is true, that we're not alone and have never been, how would we react? This question has fascinated sociologists, psychologists, and even military planners for decades. In fact, governments have conducted secret studies on this very scenario. The Brookings Report, commissioned by NASA in the 1960s, suggested that widespread knowledge of alien life could destabilize human society, particularly religious and political institutions. But would that really be the case? Modern polling suggests that many people believe in extraterrestrial life, and an increasing number say they'd welcome the news. Shows like Ancient Aliens and movies like Arrival or Contact have helped normalize the idea of intelligent life beyond Earth. Pop culture has arguably prepared us for disclosure far more than science has. Still, the psychological impact would be massive. 1. Religious repercussions. Some religious frameworks might struggle with the idea that humans aren't the center of the universe, or even the most intelligent beings in it. Scriptures might be reinterpreted, doctrines challenged, but others would adapt, as religions have done for centuries. Some might even see the aliens as angels or messengers of God. 2. Scientific realignment. The scientific community would face a paradigm shift. Fields like anthropology, biology, and physics would need to incorporate alien perspectives. Everything we thought we knew about evolution, intelligence, and consciousness would be re-examined. The question would no longer be, is there life out there? But what do they know that we don't? 3. Political and economic fallout. Nations would scramble for access, communication, and control. Who speaks for Earth? Would a United Nations-style council be created? Would world powers compete or cooperate for alien attention? The very structure of our civilization could be altered. Economies might collapse or transform overnight. New technologies could make existing industries obsolete. But beyond the chaos, there could also be a unifying force. Contact could act as a mirror, showing us the pettiness of our divisions and the urgency of working together. The role of pop culture priming us for disclosure. Over the past century, science fiction has played a crucial role in shaping how we imagine alien contact and, in many ways, preparing us for the possibility. From H.G. Wells' The War of the Worlds to Spielberg's Close Encounters of the Third Kind, humanity has long fantasized, feared, and hoped for contact with beings from beyond the stars. The idea of alien observers is especially common. In Star Trek, the Prime Directive prohibits interference with less developed civilizations, a direct parallel to the zoo hypothesis. In The Truman Show, a man lives his life unaware he's the star of a hidden reality show, an allegory for our own possible cosmic enclosure. Films like The Matrix, Dark City, and Westworld explore simulated realities and unseen watchers. Even modern UFO narratives echo the themes of the zoo hypothesis. Mysterious sightings, unmarked aircraft, government secrecy, they all suggest a hidden presence operating just out of reach. These stories do more than entertain. They help us process the unknown. They give us a safe space to explore big questions. Who are we? Who's watching us? And what happens when the watchers reveal themselves? What would it take for humanity to be ready? If we are in a cosmic zoo, then the obvious question becomes, what are we waiting for? What needs to happen before the zookeepers unlock the gate and step forward? Most versions of the zoo hypothesis imply that there is a threshold, a specific level of development we must reach before we are contacted. But what is that threshold? Here are a few possibilities. 1. Technological maturity. Maybe we need to prove we can responsibly use our technology. That means managing AI, avoiding nuclear war, and becoming a multi-planetary species. Once we've demonstrated we can survive our adolescence as a civilization, the aliens might consider us peers, not pets. 2. Ethical maturity. Perhaps it's not about how smart we are, but how kind we are. Aliens might be waiting for us to overcome war, poverty, and environmental destruction. They may be watching to see if we can evolve not just technologically, but morally. 3. Unification. Contact might only happen once humanity speaks with one voice. If Earth remains fractured, politically, economically, ideologically, it may send the message that we're not ready to join a larger community. Unity could be the key that unlocks the door to contact. 4. A signal from us. Maybe it's on us to initiate the conversation. If alien civilizations are waiting for an invitation, then perhaps all we need to do is send a clear, intelligent, peaceful signal, one that says, we're ready to talk. Organizations like METI, Messaging Extraterrestrial Intelligence, are already working on just that. Of course, the criteria might be something we haven't even considered. We're trying to guess the standards of beings thousands or millions of years ahead of us, but the very act of trying might be enough to move us forward. The ethics of observation, a galactic prime directive? If the zoo hypothesis is true, then advanced extraterrestrial civilizations are not just technologically superior. They are making a conscious moral choice to observe us without interference. This raises an important and often overlooked question. Is it ethical? From one perspective, it might seem benevolent. After all, they're not invading, exploiting, or harming us. They're simply watching, waiting, giving us the space to develop naturally. But from another point of view, their silence could be seen as abandonment or even manipulation. If they possess knowledge that could end our suffering, cure disease, or prevent planetary catastrophe, is it truly moral to withhold it? Let's put it in human terms. Imagine watching a civilization on a distant island slowly self-destruct, its people suffering from disease, poverty, and war. Now imagine you had the ability to help without endangering yourself. Would you step in? Or would you justify your silence with the belief that their culture must evolve without interference? This is the ethical dilemma at the heart of the zoo hypothesis. There's also the matter of consent. If we are being observed, we haven't agreed to it. We don't know the rules. We don't know who's watching or why. In any earthbound context, such covert surveillance would be considered a violation of privacy, even a form of exploitation. Then again, we may simply be projecting human values onto something far beyond our understanding. What if the aliens see us the way we see microbes, fascinating in their own way, but not morally equal or conscious in the same sense? What if they don't intervene for the same reason we don't try to teach philosophy to ants? The truth is, ethics might not be universal. Alien civilizations could operate under entirely different principles, or perhaps there's a cosmic code of conduct, a shared understanding among advanced beings that interference is dangerous, not just to the observed, but to the observers as well. And that leads us to another important question. Would we do the same? Are we zookeepers too? If we ever discover life elsewhere, on Mars, Europa, or a planet in another solar system, how will we behave? Let's imagine that one day we find a planet teeming with microbial life. Would we land our ships, plant a flag, and begin extracting resources? Or would we designate the planet as a protected site, observing from orbit without interfering? And what if we discover intelligent life? Primitive perhaps, but sentient. Would we consider them equals? Or would we watch from the shadows, just as the zoo hypothesis suggests aliens might be doing to us? Already, on Earth, we struggle with these questions. How do we treat uncontacted tribes in the Amazon? How do we justify filming wildlife documentaries without getting involved when predators attack? There are parallels between our behavior and the kind of ethical detachment the zoo hypothesis describes. It's possible that what we think of as alien ethics are already within us, conflicted, contextual, and ever-evolving. As we explore the universe, our decisions may mirror those we imagine of our cosmic observers. And perhaps that's the lesson the zoo hypothesis is really trying to teach, that we are becoming the very beings we imagine are watching us. The more we grow, the more we must consider what kind of stewards we want to be of our planet, of our solar system, and of any life we may find beyond it. SETI, METI, and the future of communication. So where do our efforts to find intelligent life fit into all of this? Organizations like SETI, Search for Extraterrestrial Intelligence, have been scanning the skies for decades, listening for signals, intentional or accidental, broadcast by alien civilizations. So far, the silence has been deafening. But what if SETI is trying to listen to a conversation that's deliberately avoiding us? That's where the zoo hypothesis becomes especially intriguing. It suggests that advanced civilizations choose not to broadcast, or that they use forms of communication we can't yet detect. Perhaps they encode messages in quantum fluctuations, gravitational waves, or dimensions we haven't discovered. This has led to a shift in strategy for some researchers. Instead of just listening, a new movement called METI, Messaging Extraterrestrial Intelligence, is taking a more proactive approach. METI scientists argue that if we want to make contact, we must be willing to introduce ourselves. We've sent radio signals into space, encoded messages on spacecraft like Voyager, and even beamed mathematical patterns toward nearby stars. Critics warn that this could be dangerous. What if we alert a hostile species to our presence? But others argue that any civilization capable of harming us would already know we're here. After all, Earth has been leaking radio signals for over a century. Our atmosphere contains telltale signs of industrial pollution, clear evidence of intelligent life. Still, the zoo hypothesis raises the possibility that our signals are being intercepted and ignored. Maybe we've already been heard. Maybe our hello is sitting on a galactic inbox marked "Do Not Disturb." If that's true, then what will change their minds? Will they answer if we demonstrate wisdom or unity or peace? Or are we shouting into a silent sea, waiting for a response that's never coming? The future of SETI and METI may depend on how seriously we take this hypothesis. If contact is less about technology and more about behavior, then perhaps the best way to find aliens is not to look harder, but to become better. Reflections: humanity's place in the cosmic story. The zoo hypothesis is more than just a speculative solution to the Fermi Paradox. It's a mirror held up to our civilization, asking deep questions about who we are and who we might become. It forces us to think about intelligence in a broader context, not just the ability to build rockets or split atoms, but the wisdom to coexist, to show empathy, to evolve ethically. It reminds us that silence is not the same as absence. Just because the stars aren't talking back doesn't mean no one's listening. And it invites us to see ourselves not as the pinnacle of creation, but as a young species in a vast and ancient cosmos, watched perhaps by those who once stood where we now stand. Whether or not the zoo hypothesis is true, it encourages us to act as if it is, to live as though someone out there is watching, waiting, hoping we succeed. Because maybe, just maybe, the moment we finally become worthy of contact is the moment we no longer need it. So, are aliens avoiding Earth? Maybe they are. Maybe we're part of a carefully monitored experiment, a living exhibit in the Galactic Zoo. Maybe contact will come someday, not in our lifetimes, but in some future era when humanity has matured enough to handle it. Or maybe they've already come and gone, deciding that now was not the right time. We may never know for sure, but that's the beauty and the mystery of the zoo hypothesis. It doesn't just ask where the aliens are, it asks what they see when they look at us. And more importantly, it asks what we see when we look back. Are we ready to join a galactic conversation, or are we still just learning how to speak to one another? The zoo hypothesis may be one answer to the silence of the stars, but perhaps the more important answer lies not in their silence, but in our readiness to listen, to learn, and to grow. Because if we are being watched, we still have the power to decide what kind of story we want them to see. Conclusion. Of all the theories proposed to resolve the Fermi Paradox, the zoo hypothesis stands as one of the most profound, unsettling, and ultimately humbling. It suggests that the great silence enveloping our cosmos is not an empty void, but a curated quiet, a deliberate, orchestrated non-interference by civilizations so advanced that their ethics and motives are as inscrutable to us as our own would be to an ant. This is not a theory of abandonment, but one of observation, not of indifference, but of immense, perhaps infinite, patience. The implications ripple across every facet of human existence, from our science and our spirituality to our very understanding of what it means to be a conscious being in a potentially teeming universe. If Earth is indeed a galactic preserve, then every human war, every artistic triumph, every quiet act of love, and every roaring act of cruelty is being witnessed. This transforms human history from a solitary struggle for meaning into a performance on the grandest stage imaginable. Our planet becomes a diorama, our lives a long-running documentary for an audience we cannot see or comprehend. This perspective is existentially jarring. It dismantles the anthropocentric illusion that we are the pinnacle of creation, forcing upon us the Copernican realization that we are not the center of the universe, but potentially its most fascinating, troubled, and watched project. The psychological impact of such a disclosure could be civilization-shattering, fracturing religious doctrines, realigning political power structures, and triggering a global identity crisis. Yet, it could also be the very catalyst we need, a universal mirror held up to our species, reflecting not only our pettiness and self-destructiveness, but also our capacity for beauty, innovation, and compassion. The knowledge that we are being judged, either explicitly or implicitly, might impose a new planetary ethic, a unifying pressure to overcome our tribal divisions and prove ourselves worthy of membership in a wider cosmic community. The zoo hypothesis also inverts the traditional narrative of contact. Instead of us searching for them, the entire dynamic is about our readiness. The threshold for this readiness is the theory's greatest mystery. Is it technological, requiring us to become a multi-planetary species, or master sustainable energy? Is it ethical, demanding we end war, inequality, and ecological devastation? Or is it a unification of consciousness, a moment when humanity ceases to be a cacophony of competing voices and finally speaks as one planet? This waiting game reframes the human project. Our progress is no longer just for us. It is a test we are unwittingly taking, graded by proctors we cannot see. This makes our current crises, climate change, geopolitical strife, the rise of artificial intelligence, feel like a final exam for our species. The stakes are not just our survival, but our graduation into a broader galactic existence. Ethically, the hypothesis presents a profound dilemma. From our human perspective, non-interference can be seen as the ultimate act of respect for a developing culture, a cosmic prime directive to avoid the cultural contamination and dependency that contact would bring. However, it can also be interpreted as a monstrous abdication of responsibility. If these watchers possess the knowledge to alleviate all human suffering, to cure our diseases, and to save our biosphere, their silent observation is a form of complicity. It raises the question, at what point does observation become negligence? This mirrors our own ethical struggles regarding uncontacted tribes or endangered species. The zoo hypothesis, therefore, holds up a mirror to our own potential future as a spacefaring species. If we were to discover a less advanced civilization on another world, would we become the zookeepers? Would we have the wisdom and the restraint to simply watch, or would we intervene, and in doing so, destroy what we sought to preserve? Ultimately, the zoo hypothesis is less about aliens and more about us. It is a narrative framework that challenges us to grow up. The silence of the stars is transformed from a puzzle to be solved into a challenge to be met. It asks us to become the civilization that another, older one would deem worthy of a greeting. The theory suggests that the first chapter of the human story is written by our own hands, but the second chapter awaits a co-author we have yet to meet. Until then, we are left with a choice: to despair in our cosmic isolation, or to embrace the possibility that our every action is significant, that our collective journey is being witnessed, and that our greatest achievements may still be ahead of us, waiting for the day the keepers of the zoo finally open the gate.
Thanks for watching, everyone. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell so you never miss an update. Drop a comment below with your thoughts. I love hearing from you. Check out more videos on the screen, and I'll see you in the next one. Take care.